Well, thank you for coming in, viewers. I appreciate it. Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, just at the crib, back in the office. I wanted to do some more information for you. I'm at Gosford on the Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. This one really hit me, Proverbs 21:13. Those who shut their ears to the cries of the poor will be ignored in their own time of need. This is the classic situation you find yourself in. In my second marriage, I can remember as the woman was going through the devalue phases of her narcissistic collapse in the marriage. I was studying it as it was going along, and it was the typical marriage assassination spiel type thing. And I can remember one night I was asleep. I was sound asleep. She reckoned she had to work back. This is the horror of it. You don't know. And she comes in and she goes, and I was asleep. And she goes, "You're being hostile to me." And this isn't a word of a lie. She goes, "You're being hostile to me." And I said, "I'm asleep." And she's standing over me and she's going, and I said, "You need to back off. Like, well, I don't know what, I'm asleep. How'd you go at work? You're being hostile to me." And this was clear to me that there was more going on than I was aware of. I said, "I'm not being hostile to anyone." And I said, it's very hard to be hostile to someone when you're asleep. And she wouldn't have it. And I thought, what has happened here? Who is she talking to? What intrusion have we got now? This is how narcissism works. And I said, "Look, it's all good. Just get yourself washed up or whatever you got to do, and let's get some sleep." But no, she shut her ears. She didn't want to have peace. And later on, after the marriage was ruined and all the rest of it, she was ignored in her time of need as well. I think she had a breakdown. Son goes to the psychiatrist still. It's a very sad state of affairs for those who fall into the influence of the sinful nature. They just don't come out unscathed. And I've seen this several times now, and there hasn't been any need for it. You're just at the mercy of what's happening to these people, and all you can do is watch and learn. And over the years, I've learnt so many horrible, horrible lessons that I would never have dreamed of that could happen to people that are close to me. From triangulation to just out and out sabotage, affairs, these people, honestly. And it doesn't matter how hard you try, how hard you look after them, how close you want to get, there's always going to be something that undermines the relationship. At least so far. But those who shut their ears to the cries of the poor, that's passive aggressive. Right? They're not necessarily saying anything. They're just not listening to where you're at emotionally. This happens to men and women. They've completely shut off. Okay, so what do? Do you just sit there and do nothing about it? Do you warn the person that, I can't deal with this much longer? Whatever you do is up to you, right? That's your decision. But one thing's for sure, they will be ignored in their time of need. And I have seen it over and over and over again. It's just a fact. It's just the way that it works. It's just the way life works. You think they're getting away with it all, but they're not. No, they're not. No. And you hear things on the ground. I've had the blokes that these people have tried to run off with ring me up. I've had them ring me up, even as recently. So be careful who you're mixing with, girls, because I've been rung up several times by these people. Not that I'm saying anything or doing anything, I'm just saying, well, I'm sorry, like, how did you get my number in the first place, and who really are you? These people want answers. They want to make sure that they're mixing with people that can't harm them. These people have been harmed before. The girls that I've been with were harmed before I come along. And it just goes on and on and on, because those who shut their ears to the cry of the poor will be ignored in their time of need. So the devalue system multiplies itself. We think of it only in terms of ourself. No. These personality traits, destructive personality, ways in which people turn or become or already are, they multiply. They multiply. And in ways that you would never imagine. And the harm, the ballistic, you ever heard of a ballistic missile? The ballistic way in which this kind of deliberate harm, psychological harm, is carried out in a relationship has a way of boomeranging back. It'll boomerang back. I don't know if any of you have ever thrown a boomerang. For those of you that aren't Australian, I'll show you what boomerang is on this short.
The 18-inch Murray boomerang.
Watch this.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes out and it comes back.
Here we've
Watch
got
again.
the 18-inch Murray boomerang.
Watch this. The Aborigines made this.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah.
The boomerang. And what we fail to understand is these character traits redevelop in the next relationship they end up in, the next relationship they end up in, and the more they do it, the worse it becomes for them and us if we do it. That's why it's critical to develop yourself in all the wonderful traits of Christianity. You have to be attentive in your relationship. You cannot display this kind of behavior in a relationship. When you ask someone to help you with something emotional in the relationship that's causing psychological harm or some kind of stress or trauma, stress always leads to trauma if it's not dealt with, and you can't help somebody that you meet extinguish their past. A lot of people carry terrible things from their past that have been done to them. And you can only be there as the best version of yourself to support them wherever they're at. But you're not to be the healer of people's past. It's too deep. But when people shut their ears to the cries of the poor, it's very punishing. It's no texting. It's the no text return, no return phone call, walking off in the middle of the conversation, rolling over and just going to sleep while somebody's talking. And then this devalues, right? This attempt to devalue the mindset that this person's not worth it, puts the person that's doing it, sets them up in the future to be not worth it. And you'll find these people usually discard. Once they get the idea of the fact that this person's just like this, they end up being discarded anyway, because people can't take it. And the longer you put up with it, the more like it you'll become. That's just how this spreads. So when it starts to happen and you're being ignored, you need to step up straight away, confront the issue. If it's not going to get better or it doesn't improve, guess what? As you're separating from them and they're asking for you to stay, guess what? No, the mask has slipped off and you've seen it. You know it's not going to change. And this is the consequence. And this multiplies for this person. You can't hang around these people because you turn into them. I know this from experience. You start to get resentment, bitterness, sourness. You begin to antagonize. You begin to go passive-aggressive and silent. You want to keep a distance. And this really is how things end. And it all has to do with unresolved. This person cannot resolve themselves within the relationship they've put themselves. And of course, no matter what their good deeds appear to be on the surface, out in the world, behind closed doors, this is what they're doing to their partner. And guess what? When they meet when they're running around in the paddock of the grass that's greener on the other side, guess what ultimately is going to happen to them? In their time of need, they will be ignored. One of the Hebrew words in the Bible for sin is ignorance, and it's one of the most powerful forms of sin when you ignore somebody. And this is what covert narcissists will do. They'll ignore your texts, they won't return your phone calls, and they're busy communicating, but just not with you, even though you're their exclusive partner. That is all going to come back to them. They're going to meet someone that's going to abuse them 7 times worse than what they abused you. It happens every time. And you don't want that to come down on people. This is what they're doing to themselves. This is sowing and reaping in the emotional realm, and it's real. And I've seen family members of my partners and my partners as an accomplice or, as an accessory to the fact, bringing this stuff on themselves and in the demise of their relationship. Proverbs 21:13 for those of you that get into narcissism. There's another one for you there. Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, Theologist, Gosford, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. Thank you for joining me, and bye for now.